this is like I think it's like the 14th time the Nuggets have come back from a double-digit deficit to win, and like all of them are against the Lake. It just this happens all the time, and they're just like they're awesome in a totally different way than the Celtics are awesome, which I think confuses people when the two teams play. That people think like, well, the Celtics net rating is so much better, and the Celtics blow out teams, so they would be more likely to beat Denver. But like, I would much prefer the traits that Denver has, which is like they're faced with all kinds of adversity all the time against a team, and I think there's other aspects to this that are interesting too. But like, they're faced with all this adversity, they're like these deficits, this matchup with the Lakers, which is really problematic for them a lot in a lot of ways, and they just find the answers to the problem. Their problem solving skills are unbelievable, and the things that they're able to do. And obviously, tip of the cap to the Lakers for like completely running out of gas. Also, at altitude, 48 hours after everybody played a million minutes. I guess that was kind of predictable. So yeah, like the Knicks winning is way more improbable just because like when Denver started to come back. So let me ask you this. Was there ever a moment where you were like, I'm going to go to bed?
Never. Never.
Right. So it
Never.
got, what did they get to? Like 24? Like 22?
Yeah, it was,
something
they
like
were up
that?
at like 22 in like the third quarter. They were up big. And it's like the UConn experience. No, look, UConn was never down like that, like the Nuggets were down, but it's kind of similar. Great, they're down by 20. I also firmly believe that they're going to win the game. I thought they were going to come back and cover the spread, which they didn't do, obviously. Right. They just won the game. I thought they were going to cover. It's funny. It's like the tortured psyche of the Knicks fan, sure, where the first thing that you know what it makes me think of? This is sick. Like, it's sick. Like, it makes me think of the Reggie Miller game. Sure. And a lot of people were drawing a corollary between the two. Like, it's like someone even tweeted me. It's like the reverse Reggie game. Everyone was saying this is like payback for the Reggie Miller game. Okay, I was at the Reggie Miller game with my mom. Game 1, 95 Eastern Conference semis. This is the Ewing finger roll series. Yep. The Knicks losing 7. So I'm oh, me too.
Yes, I believe you.
I'm at the game. I'm at the game with my mom.
Seats?
I don't remember, honestly, but I'll tell you what I do remember is the Knicks are up big at the end. My mom wanted to like get on the Long Island Railroad to go home. So she took me, I'm like 12 years old. So we're going to leave to the Knicks, they're up big, like they've won the game. All of a sudden, I hear as we're like walking out of Madison Square Garden, not like out, but like we're out away from our seats and we're like walking through the concession area, and I hear people booing and I'm like, what? We got to go and see what's happening here. And I remember walking out of the tunnel and seeing Reggie Miller to my right at the foul line taking free throws like to put the Pacers up. What the hell just happened here? And that was the year after, obviously. The Knicks lost in 7 to the Houston Rockets in the NBA Finals. So this is just years of absolute kicks in the nuts and punches to the gut and just soul-crushing defeat after soul-crushing defeat if you're a New York Knicks fan. So yes, like last night was great. It was 1/100th good as that was bad, as the Reggie Miller game was bad. So I want to start with that. That's how tortured Knicks fans are. That's what I want to start with instead of how great last night was how terrible the Reggie Miller game was. It does not make up for the Reggie Miller game. So part of me thinks, and obviously, like, we never win games like that. We lose games like that. Yes. We lose games like that, and we won the game. So, look, obviously it's ridiculous, and I'm all fired up, and I'm going nuts. So here's kind of like the give and take, right? The angel on one shoulder, the devil on another, where I see the Knicks up 2-0, and I see Josh Hart's an awesome role player, and I love Hartenstein, and I love Mitchell Robinson. And the home court advantage when the Knicks are hosting games is absolutely, absolutely ridiculous. And Deuce McBride doesn't put up 30-plus last night, but he plays really well, seems to be a pretty quality role player. DiVincenzo is nails. Brunson hasn't played great. And if the role players can keep doing what they're doing and Brunson starts to play better, I mean, why can't they get to an Eastern Conference final? Why can't they give the Celtics a series? Also, if Brunson can't get it together, I think they could lose the series to the Sixers. I don't think this series is over yet. So I think like upside, NBA Finals, lose to Denver. Downside, like lose 4 straight in this series to the Philadelphia 76ers. So I don't know what to think.
Give us an idea, like when you watch how these games are called now, like no fouls, like clotheslines at the basket, that kind of stuff. Like how much different is it really as somebody who played?
It's a difference, man. I said the biggest thing that we have issues with when it's not consistent. I enjoy the physicality. I think most guys do. Some guys don't get the benefit of the doubt. Some guys do. Some guys you can be physical with. Some guys you can't be because there's, quote unquote superstars. Like some guys can get the fouls they want. Some guys can't. You let this guy get mugged and this guy, like when it's inconsistent is when we have an issue with it. I don't like the flopping much. That's one thing I've expressed. It's hard to watch the game, especially when it's that physical and guys are flopping, trying to bait the refs into fouls. And some of those fouls were unbelievable. Some of the fouls they overturned, it's like, how are you getting this wrong? Some of them that they missed, they're like, what is going on here? Like, why the hell is this overturned? How did you miss this? Like, especially this crucial moment in the game. But like they said, people talk about it being up 20, man, you have a lot of leeway of missing some calls, missing mistakes. Like, ultimately it comes down to you guys. Even if the ref misses calls, they can't miss 20, like they got to miss 10 to 15 calls for it to really be like, all right, we got screwed. 2 or 3 calls, okay, I understand, and that could cost you a game. But what happens to the other 10 possessions you guys, 6 or 8 possessions that you guys missed out on that you could have taken advantage of? You got to find ways to score. You got to find ways to get stops. So there's no excuse for that. But it is tough to watch. It is tough to play in when you feel like you're being given the short end of the stick. But I enjoy the physicality. I enjoy watching. I love it. Just keep it consistent. You're going to let the guys play? Let us play. Don't call the ticky-tack foul here for this guy and then let him play because this guy has the ball and he's a no-name,
I still think Dallas Turner over 9.5 is one of my favorite bets of the entire draft. I'm not even sure Turner is the top edge on the Falcons board, let alone the top defensive player. It's what everyone is assuming, but to me, it's a very similar situation to Nolan Smith last year, where everyone agreed he was a top 10 player, a very explosive edge. But it doesn't matter if he misses out on the one team like the Eagles who could draft him, and then everyone else behind them just doesn't have that as a need. And I think that's kind of what's happening with Dallas Turner is that the Falcons, in my opinion, are probably more locked in on either Laiatu Latu or Byron Murphy. And those are my leans right now at number 8 overall. And if that's the case, then Turner could do that Nolan Smith slide all the way down to the late first round. I think that's what's going to happen too. So in my opinion, Turner's not going at number 8. We can still bet the over there. And I'm pinpointing Byron Murphy to them in particular. But again, if it was Latu, because he's the top edge on their board, that would not surprise me either.
Is Washington going to pick Jaden Daniels second overall? 2-part question. Like, do you think that the Washington Commanders will pick him second overall? And if they do pick him, what kind of player are they getting?
Well, I would hope they would pick him. I know I would pick him. It wouldn't be a question. But they're basically getting Randall Cunningham, if you boil it down. And I played with Randall in my career there in Philadelphia toward the end, and attributes are about the same. Randall was about 6'4", 215. Jaden 6'3", about 210. But they have the same attributes when you watch him play. I told Jaden that when he came to ASU, I said, you remind me of a guy I played with, Randall Cunningham. And I think that's where he'll go to Washington. With that being said, I think it's a good spot for him. You got a new head coach. They're trying to build a program, and there's no better guy to build it around than him.
Do you actually let yourself think as a bettor or a fan that Toronto can maybe do this?
I do. I mean, I'm opposite you guys going into the series. Not really a homer bet. I mean, if I could go back in time, I wouldn't have placed the bet knowing that William Nylander could potentially miss the series for the Leafs because he's such an impactful player for them, especially in the playoffs. His ability to gain the blue line without having to dump it in is something that the Leafs are missing right now. But I think the Leafs on paper are better than the Boston Bruins. It's just a matter of whether or not they can get the goaltending that they did last night, where Ilya Samsonov made some huge saves down the stretch to keep them in the game, and he outplayed Ullmark on the other side. So if they can get that goaltending, I think the Leafs can honestly beat everyone. I'm not saying that as a homer. That's just their question mark going into the playoffs. But ultimately, I would expect a response from Boston in Game 3. I mean, they had the lead for the majority of that game last night. They're a team that does play well on the road, and they can really play a suffocating style of hockey in Toronto. So I don't disagree with the line right now. I do think that this series is pretty much a virtual coin flip at this point. I would tilt things to the Leafs' favor if they can get Nylander back in the short term, but that's not a guarantee that's going to happen in this series.